All right, so we said for the loops we have types. Okay, so we talked about the while loop last week. So today we'll just discuss for loops. Okay, our case study we will use Hisense. Okay, so we go to Hisense website, then we can just go to some of the things that they've implemented and see how best we can use what we learned today to practice it. All right, so I'm just opening my PyCharm. So you can do say, let me share the screen for PyCharm. Okay, so new project, which is just click on create. All right, so this is a new project in PyCharm. Okay, so we said to create a new file or a new Python file, just right click on the name of the project. So here is Python project. So I'll just right click on it, go to new, now select Python file. Then I can give my file a name. So this is J3. Okay, then I'll just click on enter to create the file. All right, so let's talk about the first thing. Okay, so we'll talk about the if statement. We said for the if statement, we use the if statement if you are expecting something from the user. Okay, so you just want, let's say you are expecting value 5 from the user. So if the user enters 5, you want the user to go somewhere. If he enters 3, you want it to. So let me just draw the flow for us to see. Then we can understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so for instance, you're expecting an input from a user. Okay, so if the user inputs 5, so he said if here is 5, if the value is 5, okay, you should take the user to the left hand side. If it's 4, you should take the user to that side. Okay, so what's implemented in this box, that's what we use. So we use the if statement. Let me just share this again, the PyCharm. Okay, so we said in Python, this is how you write if statement for the syntax. So it's if, then the condition will come. Okay, so the condition is, let's say if value is, let's say, greater than 4, then you bring, so this is the condition. What I've highlighted is the condition. Then you bring colon, then you press enter. Okay, so we said for Python, anytime you press and enter from one line and goes to the other line and it is indented, that means anything that you enter there, they will be the children for the parent. Okay, so what we've entered here, this one is the parent. So if I press enter here, since this line is indented, anything that I enter here, so let's say print hello world. Okay, this will be the child. Okay, so here too I can just press enter. So yeah, okay, so these are the children for this parent. So if I press enter and let's say I click on delete or I type on the delete, so if I just do print test, it means this line is not part of this parent. Okay, so because this is indented or these are indented under the parent, this is not indented under the parent. Okay, so it's not part of the parent. I also said for the if statements for the children to be executed, okay, in Python, the condition inside the parent should be true. So when you check here, you see this is the parent. So let's check the condition. We said this is the condition, okay. So the condition should be true. So let's say we are expecting an input from the user. So we've already done it in day 1. So on day 1, we talked about input from the user. So let's say this, and let's say enter any value. Okay. And one thing we also learned was to cast the value, because we said for input, anything that it receives from the user will come as a string. Okay, will come as a string. So it means here we'll be comparing a string with a number. We said for Python, it's not possible to do that. You have to anything that you compare should be of the same type. Okay, so this is a string, so it means we have to convert it into a number, because 4 is a number. So to do that, we said we just have to wrap it inside int. Okay, so this is how we change a type to any value to int. So let's run this code and see what will happen. Save. Just go to I'll run the code. I'll select day 3. Day 3. Okay. All right. So it's asking me to enter a user a value. So let me enter, let's say 4. Okay. So when you enter the 4, the children here didn't execute, because the value that you entered, you said we entered 4, and you said this is only true when the value that you enter is greater than 4. We entered 4. 4 is not greater than 4. Okay, so that's why the children didn't execute, but this parent will come. All right, so let's enter a different value. Let's run it again and see something. Okay, so it said enter a value. So let me enter, let's say 7. Okay, so when I enter the 7, the condition inside the parent, okay, that's the conditional statement. The condition here is true because 7 is greater than 4. We said since the parent's condition is true, anything or the children will execute. Anything inside the parent will execute. So that's why we had hello world here. We also had Ghana. And we said since this is a parent on its own, it will execute no matter the value that comes from the top here. All right, so we learned if statement. Then we also talked about the else if. Okay, so let's go to high sense. Let's talk about the else if before. All right, so let's press enter. We said for the else if does not come under the parent, okay? It's a parent on its own. So we just click on or tap on the delete key, then we type else if, okay? Then the syntax for else if is else if space, then the condition, okay? So space, and let's say the value that you enter, if is less than 3 colon, if it's less than 3 colon, then you press enter. Okay, so since we press the enter, it has been indented. So it means everything that we type under the indentation are children for these parents. Okay, so let's type we are small. Okay, all right, so let's run this code and see what will happen. So I will just save Control S or Command S if you're on Mac. So let me just enter a value 2. Now press enter. Okay, so 2, enter. All right, so it's telling me I'm small. Okay, so we said in Python, the code executes from the top. So here we entered 4, we entered 2, sorry. So the 2 came here. So 2, we converted the 2 to int, okay, because we are comparing it with a number here. So they should be of the same type. 2 is not greater than 4. So the children will not execute, okay? So it skipped, so when it's executed this line, it skipped all the children, all the indentation here, and came to the next parent. Okay, so we entered 2, and 2 is less than 3. So it means this parent, the condition for this one is true. We said for the conditional statement, anytime a condition is true, anything inside will be executed. So it means this one will execute. So when we enter the 2, only you are small executed. So let's go to hisense.com and let's check how we can implement this or on their website. Let me just share the screen. Let me just Hisense. Okay, all right. I already opened the page. All right, so let me try to log into Hisense Ghana. All right, so this is the login page. So let me enter. So let me enter a value, okay, or username. So let's say rich@gmail.com. Let me enter a password. Ghana, motherland. Okay. And let's click on login. All right, so when we enter the login, it's telling us the username or the password is incorrect. Okay. So let's see how they implemented this with if statement. So let me go back to the code, the PyCharm. So we have it here. Okay. So let's try to do the same thing. So we just take a value. So value equals input. Okay. What's your username? Okay. What's your username? Then the second one will be password. Okay. So because they ask of username and password. So password input. What's your password? Okay. So to implement this, we say if, okay, then the condition will come. If the username, okay, is not equal to, let's say Hisense is expecting richard@gmail.com. Okay. So it means if the username that I input is not equal to what they have in Hisense database, they should tell me something. Okay. Hold on. Then let's say print. You don't have an account with us. Okay. Then the next thing is, let's say, else if, okay, else if the username, okay, is equal to, let's say, richard@gmail.com, I should print, or Hisense will print, let's say, login was successful. Login was successful. All right. So we've talked about logical statements. Okay. So we said for logical statements, to compare two strings, we use double equal to. We only use single equal to when we want to assign a value to a variable. So in this case, whatever we are expecting from this user, we are assigning to the password. So that's why we use a single equal to sign. If you are comparing, okay, so that's the logical statement. So if you are comparing, we use double equal to. So that's why I didn't use just a single equal to. I use only double equal to. And we also said you if you note it or you bring exclamation mark equal to, it means they are not equal. Okay. All right. So we talked about this logical statement. So let's run this code and see something. So I'll just save, then I'll run. Okay, so it's asking me for the username. So let me enter a wrong username. At gmail.com. So he asked me for the password. So let me type down. All right. So it's telling me I don't have an account with us. Okay. So because this one executed, because what I entered, that's ro@gmail.com, is not the same as richard@gmail.com. So that's why this one executed. So it means this condition was true. So all the children executed. For the if and the else if, what happens is if the if runs, okay, the else if would not run. So that's why, even though this one was a parent, the children executed. This one was a parent. It was supposed to check. It didn't check because the else if, because the condition at the top was true. So if this one was false, then the else if will run, or to start to check or to compare the values. Yes, someone has his hand up. You can ask the question.
Okay, Richard. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Collins. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard, I wanted to ask something. I don't know if maybe I'm rushing or something, but I just want to be clear on it.
Okay.
With the username,
Okay.
when you are using the if statement, like with the example that you gave,
Yes.
let's say you have a database of usernames, and you input if let's say richard@gmail.com, right?
Yes.
Like with if username equal to richard@gmail.com.
Yes.
Then let's say I have a database of multiple, let's say mails. Do I have to input those mails individually into the code?
No. Okay. So
I don't know if you get, let's say Richard,
yes, I get
yours is there.
you.
Collins, I have mine there. Let's say you get me.
Yes, I get you. All right. So for today,
You get, okay.
yes, I get you. For today, before we get to the follow, okay, we'll talk about how Python save objects or save names or usernames, as you are saying. Okay, so anything that's collected from the database, we can store it as a group. Okay, so that instead of checking for each of them, what we'll do is we'll look through the values that was pulled from the database. Then we'll try to compare with what you entered. Hello, Collins.
Yeah, well understood, Richard. Thank
Oh,
you.
all right, you're welcome. Yes. Okay, please, do you have any question here? So we said the else if didn't execute because this condition was true. So let's say we had another else if here. So let me just say else if username is equal to ro@gmail.com. Print you are from Ghana. Okay. All right. So let's run this code and see what I want to talk about. All right. So let me just type ro@gmail.com. Let me just type in password. Okay. Here he said that the topmost if statement or topmost parent was true. So this won't execute. This won't execute. Even though we entered ro@gmail.com. So in your conditional statement, you have to order them very well, or you get it wrong. So what we can do is, let's say let's change this. Let me just use this, something like that, and see the second scenario I'll talk about. Okay, so let me just type ro@gmail.com. Any password. Okay, so it's telling me I'm from Ghana. Okay, so the test statement was executed because it started from here. This was false, so the indentation, the children won't run. We went to the next parent, it was false, so the children won't run. Went to the third one, it was true, so the children run. Okay, so that's how if statement work. Now let's go to the high sense and see what they did. All right, so with this page, for instance, what they've done is if you enter the username and password, they send both of them. So they'll send both your username and password to the database to check whether it's correct. If it's not correct, then they will just echo this one for you. So in our next class, that's for the HTML, we try to combine Python with HTML. So we try to design a page like this, a page like the login. We design a page like this. You make the input. We use if statement in Python to check whether you are entering a correct username or a password. Now let's go back to our programming. All right, so we said for the Hisense, they were checking for both the username and password. Both of them should be correct, okay? We also learned another thing that we talked about or, and we also talked about and, okay, and not. So we said for and, if you want to have multiple, we use these three, okay? If you want to have multiple conditions, for instance, here I send they check for, they didn't only check for the username, they checked for the username and the password. Okay, so that means they use and. Okay, and let's say password is equal to, let me just type sorry, and password is equal to let's see, gh Baumia. Okay, let's save it and see. All right, so with this condition, it's trying to check for multiple conditions. So if you had, like say, a third value, you can just bring it. We said for the and, both conditions should be true. Okay, so if this is true, this should be true before the children will run. If you use the or, okay, so if you use the or, one of them should be true. So it means either this or that is true and the condition will run. So let's use, so with the login page that Hisense has done, they used and statement, okay, because if your email is correct, your password should be correct before you can log in. So let's change this one to and statement. And let's change this statement down here. You are logged in. Okay, let's see. Let's try to run the code and see what will happen. Okay, so I've run the code. So it's asking me for my username. So the username at gmail.com. Then the password. All right. So he asking me is he said I've logged in. Okay, so that's what almost all the websites, not almost all the websites that you see, that's how they implement their login. Okay. If it's wrong, so you can bring another thing. If it's not equal to that, you can just whatever you want to show to the user, you can show to the user. All right, so that's for the if statement. Now let's add another thing. Else, okay. And none of the above was true. Okay, so for the conditional statement, we have three types. We have the if, we have the else if, we have the else. Okay, the else only executes when none of these was correct. Okay, that's when the else will execute. Let's test and see whether what you are saying is true. Let's run the code. Let me enter gh@gmail.com. The password, let me enter just anything. All right, so he's telling me none of them was true. Let's see whether it's true. So it means we entered this Gmail. It's not equal to this, so this statement will not run. It means the children won't run. So this one is off. The second one, we entered gha@gmail.com. It's not the same as this, so this won't run. The third one is not equal to arrow. What we entered is not equal to arrow, so it will not run. The last one, because we used else, since none of them was true, this one executed. So that's the types of the conditional statement that we have. Now, the last time we talked about the while loop.
Hello, please excuse me.
Okay.
Am I the only person who is expressing breakages?
Yes, I'm sure. Okay, so that's for the else if statement. So the else if statement is very correct. So that's why there are some popular jokes around that they say instead, let's say for AI. There are some people who implement AI stuff instead for them to train the system. They can use this else if to guess what the user will input. Then they will give the response to the user. Okay, so that's not AI. Using else if is not AI. Okay. Mhm. Now let's go to the loops. Let me clear this, or let me just um, let me open another page. Okay, let me clear it. All right. So the next thing that we talked about is the loops. All right. So for last week, we said for the loops, for instance, I want to enter print. Hello. Then I'll enter print. Ghana. Then I'll enter print. Whatever. All right. So instead of typing print 3 times, I can use loops to do that. Okay. So the loop will go to a data, then it will give me the values. So the loops is really important. Instead for you to repeat code, you can use loop to do that. Let's open Hisense and see what they've done. All right, so this is Hisense website and what they've implemented. You see, we have some fridges here. We have the description, the images, and all. Okay, so these are in a database, and in the database, they didn't pick them one by, they didn't pick the values one. What they did was they went through the database, then they pick all fridges. Okay, so they pick all fridges. Then in their code, okay, for the backend, they will use loops to go through the values that came out from the database to print this to the user. Okay, so the loops is very important. So let's go to let's say all product. All right, so for all products, so they use loops to go through all the items in the database. So the loops is very important. Let's look at how Python implements loops. We said you can implement loops using the while loop. So the while loop, last week we talked about it. Today we will not talk about it. Today what we talk about is the for loops. Okay, so that's our main topic. We said for the while loops, it can really cost you a lot if you don't know what you are doing. Okay, so today let's go straight to the for loops. But before we go to the for loops, we said here, for instance, this data that we see here, what we see here, there were a collection of data. Okay, there were a collection of data, and we looked through to print their values. So that means in Python, there should be, you see the variables that we talked about. We only talk about, let's say x is equal to 2. Talk about t is equal to that. All right. But what if you want to collect something from the database? So to collect something from the database, you can use a variable called list. Okay. So that will take us to our next topic. So list. All right. So you can use list to store a collection of data. You can use in other programming languages, they use what we call arrays. Okay. Even in Python, we have arrays. But in the for today's class, we talked about lists and their for loops, and how you can just look through this. Okay. All right. So for the list, this is the syntax. So let's say we have a list like this. Let's say refrigerators. Okay. Refrigerators equals, okay. This is the syntax. So refrigerators equals, then you bring square bracket. Then inside it, you can name the element. So let's say we have, let's say LG. The next element, comma, let's say Samsung. The next one, comma, let's say, what's the other one? Sharp. Okay. Sharp. All right. So if you can see, because they are strings, they are a sequence of characters. That's why I brought the double quote. Okay. But you can actually do this. You can do, let's say, Panasonic. Okay, Panasonic. You can exclude this. You see, it has underlined each word. It means there's something wrong. So we have to declare this one because Python doesn't know anything like Panasonic. So to do that, you go to the top, then you can write Panasonic. Okay, Panasonic equals to, then let's say Panasonic. Okay, all right. So you can either do this or do that. Okay, so that's that. All right, so this is what our saying they've done. So anything that you query from the database with the database guys, the database administrators. With last week, we talked about how we can select values from the database. Anytime you select values from the database, this is how it comes. Okay, it comes in an object form. Okay, and that's list is used on objects. Okay, so if you've been able to save the values inside the refrigerators. Now, let's look at something else. To access, or let's just print refrigerators and see what it will give us. Refrigerators. Let me just save and run. All right, so we have all the elements, but still in a list form. Okay, we still have the brackets. You see, when you go to Hisense, you don't have any brackets anywhere. All right, so this is not what we want. Yes, you can ask your question. Hello,
Richard,
yes, Collins.
yeah, Richard, with the listing, when you
Okay.
were listing the refrigerators,
Yes.
the Panasonic, why didn't you put it in double quote? But
Yes.
you named it into.
Yeah, so that's also one way of doing that. You can name it in double quote, but I'll just distinguishing between the reason why we put something in double quote and why we don't put something in double quote. We said we put something in double quote when it's a string, it's a sequence of characters that
Okay.
Python or the language is not aware of. Okay, but here we excluded the double quote, so it means we need to define the value here or the value at the top so that when it gets here, Python will know, oh, yes, yes, we even describe what Panasonic was. So this is optional. So we can bring double quotes,
Oh,
delete this one. Still,
okay,
this
okay,
good one.
okay, okay. So Richard, I'm coming on a quick one. You
Okay,
know, words like, let's say, input.
okay,
It's a function in Python.
yes,
Uh-huh. So let's say with the first one that you did
yes,
with the if statement. Uh-huh. Let's say you say enter your password. So
okay,
maybe I don't want to use the test enter your password. I want to use input password.
okay. So
Do you
this,
get it?
yes, so
Uh-huh.
let's say value is equal to input
Uh-huh.
your password. Yes,
Uh-huh.
because we brought quote under it, or to cover the text that we've entered. It doesn't matter. It will still run. Okay. So
Okay.
it won't take this input as what Python knows because Python only know of this input as a function. Okay. Not this. Okay. Or not this.
Okay.